If this were a Reese's TV ad, you'd be staring at a Reese's peanut butter cup. And sure, my voice is peanut buttery smooth, but still, you need to see the peanut butter cups, right? No? I can really just say Reese's and you'll go get some? Okay, Reese's. 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 Really working, actually. Reese's. Reese's. I'm on to something. Reese's. Reese's. Reese's.
Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
This is Sean Clark, head football coach of App State Mountaineers, and you're listening to the Fun Belt Podcast.
If you didn't know before, now you know why they call this the Fun Belt.
I'm very excited about the Sun Belt.
You know, while other conferences have been breaking up, our conference has become stronger.
The state of Sun Belt football is the strongest in our history.
I saw Fun Belt Conference, and I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I got to join the show. It sounds a lot of fun.
You know, you could argue the stability in our league is as good as any league there is. You know, a couple of things have happened. The league presidents were smart enough several months ago to up the buyout in our league. So, you know, it would be cost prohibitive for, you know, somebody in our league to say, hey, you know, the AAC might get rated here or there, and we may go there. And, you know, it looks like their addition to replace SMU is going to end up being an Army in all likelihood, or at least in football. So, you know, I feel really good about our league. We've talked about it, you know, on our AD calls. We have an in-person meeting here in about a month. You know, there are people that are knocking at our league. I think I wouldn't say a sense of panic, but there's a sense of unrest maybe in Conference USA. And, you know, maybe our neighbor 30 miles down the road, there have been some overtures made to the league. The school that calls themselves the Hilltoppers, I know there's been some overtures there too. And you know, I say those I don't think that comes as totally out of left field to anybody that may be listening. But quite frankly, and we've had these discussions again with the commissioner and amongst our ADs, neither one of those, and really nobody else out there right now that's on the radar screen or is knocking on the door moves the needle for us from a revenue standpoint. So if you look at it, you know, why would we want to bring one or two more schools to the table that really does nothing for us revenue wise, that only slices the pie in smaller pieces for everybody that's here right now? And I think that's a consistent feeling across the membership in our league.
ULM Athletic Director John Hartwell brings us into this week's preview of Sun Belt Conference action. Nothing really surprising. We all know that the league's happy where they are. If the right team were to come along, obviously they would expand. But that's why we're here from Fun Belt Podcast, part of the Believe Network. Dusty Thibodeaux, Warhawk Report, Jeremy Harper of HowlRazor.com, and Shane Mettlen of the infamous Daily News Record that I got right for that. Guys, it is really the heart of Sun Belt Conference action this week, kicking off at 11 a.m. Saturday and taking us all the way through the night. We have nothing but Fun Belt action with two non-conference games, including the A-State Red Wolves and, of course, the Raging Cajuns going to play the Gophers. Welcome in, guys. I know that was a long intro, but there's a lot going on and a lot to be excited about.
That was an exhausting introduction, but it was well said, well done. And you're right. This is the week when things get serious, right? Not just for the Sun Belt, but for a lot of conferences, when conference games more or less kick in. There are a couple non-cons on the schedule for the Sun Belt, which one is actually quite interesting. I know the Sun Belt has really been going all in on this sort of consecutive weeks for beating Power Fives. What do you guys think of that? Is that a little bit too thirsty, or is that like a legitimate thing to root for?
I think it's legitimate. I mean, I've posted this a couple times. There's only 2 leagues that have won non-conference games against Power 5 teams every week this week, and it's the Sun Belt and the Big Ten. That's pretty good company to be in.
Okay, all right. Now I feel a little bit better about this. Thibs, you agree?
For sure. I mean, we got to take our wins where we can, quite literally, and everything we can to make sure that we stay relevant. Maybe now that there's no more Pac-2 as part of the P5 there, maybe the Sun Belt can be elevated to be that 5th spot for the P5.
I would love some autonomy. All right, maybe I've always just felt like a little bit like I never like to toot that horn too hard because it makes it sound like, well, we didn't really belong in that same discussion or room, and we're just a little G5 team. We can't handle that kind of stuff. And I guess I just feel a little self-conscious about that. You're telling me this is legit. This is a legit thing. It's only us in the Big Ten, and we should be happy about that.
I think you're also kind of subtly pointing out, hey, the American hasn't done this 4 weeks in a row. the Mountain West hasn't done this 4 weeks in a row. Conference USA obviously hasn't done this 4 weeks in a row. I mean, you can kind of point that out when you're talking about which league should get that New Year's Day bowl spot.
Also,
and we collectively in the Sun Belt have probably done better than most SEC teams that can't even win against an SEC opponent.
Here's the thing too. I feel like it's kind of ironic. I felt like some of the out-of-conference Power 5 wins we had last year were much bigger, right? And this year, some of the P5s that we've played are kind of on the struggling spectrum, right? So I don't know if you compare the 2 years, if one seems a little bit better than the other, or maybe I just shouldn't even bring it up.
Don't bring it up because I think that they were all at that point the struggle bus teams, but I think last year was bigger name brands that were beaten, with it being Notre Dame, Nebraska, Texas A&M, as opposed to this year. It's definitely been a lot more consistent wins happening.
That's well said, well put, and that's why you do the introductions, Thibs, because you are focused like a laser on excellence.
I thought it's because I drew the short straw.
And that too. Yeah, if we were concerned with excellence, we'd have Shane do it. So does that mean that we can go straight into our favorite segment of the week?
I think we can. A quick mention, though, women's soccer, of course, is always our beloved sport.
Oh, God.
Just because your Arkansas State Red Wolves
Yeah.
only have one conference point with a tie, they're 0-2-1, doesn't mean you should dread soccer, because there's a lot of teams that are actually undefeated. Teams like South Alabama, Southern Miss, JMU, Georgia State, all sitting with 2 wins and a couple of ties. And then you have Texas State, App State, 1-0-2, the good old snake-bitten record. More importantly, your Warhawks, Jeremy, 2-1 in conference action.
Man, congratulations for the Warhawks. That's the little school that can. Congratulations, you guys. This is like your Super Bowl. Way to go.
We're a women's golf and women's soccer school now.
Yeah, damn, you guys, this is how excellence starts. It starts with the sort of non-revenue sports, and then suddenly you're winning conference championships in football, basketball, baseball, volleyball, all the big ones.
Let's throw a shout out to the App State women's soccer team.
Okay.
JMU was seconds away from a 5th straight shutout when App State scored in the 89th minute and salvaged a tie there. So I think, you got to give them pretty credit for that.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a thing I never like when it's 90 minutes and it's a 0-0 or even a 1-1, and both of those goals happened early on in the game. So to have some excitement down the stretch is always a great thing, and definitely generates the interest there of soccer. The team that I want to know more about, Marshall men's team, is, one of the premier men's programs in the nation. Women's team 0-3 right now in conference, 5-4-1 overall. They're on a 4-game losing streak right now. Is there just that much disparity of women's soccer between the men's soccer at Marshall?
I don't know. It's always weird to me when Like there's a men's and women's team at a school and one's super successful and the other's not. I mean, most of the time they share facilities and resources and everything else. And, you know, it probably just comes down to coaching in this case. Like, you know, Marshall's men's team has one of the best coaches in the country, obviously, with his track record and a national championship under his belt. And I don't know why else they wouldn't be getting it done on the women's side.
I'm just curious. Do you feel that moved the needle at all when Marshall won a national title in men's soccer?
It did in Huntington. I mean, I don't know. Like nationally, I mean, I think anytime you have a school and you can like say national champions, there's something to celebrate there. But I mean, Marshall, they travel for soccer. Their fans travel for soccer. They sell tickets and, you know, sell out the stadium for soccer. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily think of that corner of West Virginia, coal country, and steel mills in Ohio, and the gigantic oil refinery in Kentucky all right there as being like prime soccer territory, but it's they love it there.
On that note, Jeremy,
I was waiting for soccer talk to be over.
he feels so excluded with these refined sports. I mean, it'd be like if we started talking about field hockey or, you know, reading competitions, anything of note that involves the mind.
Like I'm Mr. Soccer. I have to do some research for this, Jeremy.
I know. I need to learn more about the beautiful sport. Is what I need to. The beautiful game is what they call it, right? I need to learn a little bit more about it. But yes, my Red Wolves struggling to score some points, lost 2-1 to Southern Miss in their last game. So yes, have to find a way to increase my interest. But on that note, and speaking of interest, it's the most interesting segment that we do, guys. Are you ready?
The closing?
No, not the closing. Not plugs, promos, and parting shots. Although everybody loves that. Everybody always comes up to me and says, "Man, I love your parting shots." No, actually, no one's ever said that to me. I'm talking about second and short. We paused for the goal, right? That's a pro move from us. All right, you guys remember how second and short works. I bring up the game, and then I select one of you to open up with some commentary, and then the other guy closes it out. So a lot of conference games, and let's go ahead and get this started. Let's get it started with second and short. All right, so we talked earlier about the P5 versus the Sun Belt, how the Sun Belt has a little streak going 4 weeks in a row with a P5 victory beneath our belt. We have another opportunity to increase that. Very first game of the week. It's 11 a.m., Big Ten Network, Louisiana, 3-1, at Minnesota, 2-2. The Gophers are 12-point favorite for this. I don't know if they've deserved that. I don't know if Louisiana deserves to have any credit. They both seem to be struggling teams. Thibodeaux, what do you think we're going to see out of this very first game coming out of the block?
You got to hope that the Cajuns are ready to go. I mean, they're 0-3 in the series history of this matchup.
Nice.
The Gophers on a 2-game losing streak, having lost to North Carolina, and then at Northwestern. It could be a little bit of a trap game as they get ready to face Michigan next week. So are they already looking ahead to try to rain on Jim Harbaugh's parade? Or are they going to let the Cajuns cook up a 5th straight P5 win?
You know, Cajuns have found, another good set of running backs with Draylon Washington and Jacob Kabuti. A little bit of flux with the quarterback situation. How do you see this shaking out? Shane, give us your Heisman analysis.
I don't know if Minnesota is going to be overlooking them coming off an overtime loss. I think they're going to be ready to go. But it's a matter of, do we see the Cajuns that blew out UAB and looked pretty solid there, or the ones that have kind of squeaked by some lesser opponents? I don't know. I think it'll be a competitive game, but I'm not super high on Louisiana pulling off a win on the road, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, kind of hard to beat those Gophers. They'll have a hard time stopping Darius Taylor in that Gopher run game, which is pretty good. And let's face it, the Louisiana Cajuns have not had the best defense lately. Next game up, same time, is probably what I'm considering the O'Douls Maintain Your Edge game of the week. It's cold, it's refreshing, it has the crisp taste of Pilsner. South Alabama, 2-2, at James Madison, 4-0, 11 o'clock a.m. on ESPNU. Duke's a 3-point favorite. Dukes, yes, they're looking solid. I think we get a little nitpicky when we talk about their pass defense, but overall, it looks like the Dukes are the cream of the crop, at least in the East. In the West, it looked like it was supposed to be South Alabama, but South Alabama can't seem to get it together. Shane, is this going to be the battle of the Titans we're hoping it was going to be, or is South Alabama just going to collapse again?
I'm expecting a competitive game. I don't know. I mean, South Alabama, I didn't expect them to be the team that a quarter of the way through the season we were talking about not knowing what you're going to get, because they were super consistent last year.
We knew what they were.
I mean, it's definitely intriguing whether you're going to get the team that ran Oklahoma State off the field in Stillwater, or I still don't know what to think of Central Michigan either. They've played a tough schedule, and maybe getting a win in Mobile is a better indication of what Central Michigan is than anything else. I don't know, but you expect South Alabama to close that game out at home, and they didn't. Damian Webb going against JMU's not pass defense, their rush defense, which is statistically the best in the country right now. Be very interesting to see if South Alabama can get anything going on the ground, because so far nobody's done it against JMU.
Grade A analysis from Shane. Thibs, do you even have anything to add to that discussion after that award-winning analysis?
I still love the Jaguars, but let's be real.
Yes.
Every big game that they've been a part of, they've fallen flat on. They went to UCLA last year, fell flat, snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Represent the league in the New Orleans Bowl, fall flat.
Yes, they do.
Kick off the season against the darlings of the G5, Tulane, fall flat.
Absolutely.
Have a big NFL Network game, ESPN game against Central Michigan at home, fall flat.
Fall flat. Yeah.
It doesn't get any better than going against the East Division champions, the JMU Dukes. And I think Kirk Cignetti is going to have his phone out. He's going to be recording the highlights. And then he's going to hand it to the governor at the post-game handshake and tell him to study it. It's Dukes all day long.
I can tell you that's one thing he will not do this week.
That was some emotional analysis from Thibodeaux there, who's been hurt again and again and again by the Jaguars. Jaguars. I always pronounce it incorrectly. All right, so following that game, we got a game at 2:30 p.m. on ESPN Plus. The plus stands for quality. Arkansas State 2-2 at Massachusetts 1-4. The Minutemen given the 1-point home edge. Let me tell you something about the Minutemen. They are 0-4 after week 0, right? They won their week 0 game against New Mexico State. And then they played Auburn and got crushed. And then they played Miami of Ohio, and got crushed. But then the next 2 games, they lost by a total of 5 points. The Minutemen might be kind of a dangerous 1-4 team. Shane, what do you think? You're closest to Massachusetts physically. What do you think we're going to see out of this?
I'm not particularly close to Massachusetts, but yeah, okay.
Compared to the rest of us,
I'm just looking. I'm looking at the trends. The Red Wolves are trending up.
Ooh.
They've managed to turn things around since what we thought was just a morally devastating opening week.
Yes.
and then get blown out by the would-be rival Memphis Tigers.
Yes.
The next week. We
Yes,
thought they
always
were done.
bang.
We thought they were done, and the Red Wolves have responded, while UMass has not. They've become what we thought they were going to be, losing 4 in a row. I'm just looking at the trends, and I think Arkansas State goes up there and makes it 3 in a row, which I didn't think I was going to say a couple weeks ago.
Shane is looking at the data. He is crunching the numbers, and it comes up Red Wolves. What do you think, Thibs? Does the data lie?
This is the second game in the series. Last year, the Minutemen headed down to Jonesboro and walked back to UMass with a 2-point win, 35-33. I see that being the return trip quite literally for the Red Wolves. This time they get their 3rd in a row as they get the big non-conference independent Notre Dame conference win. Do we get to count that as a P5 win?
Why not? We can do that we can count if Notre Dame can kind of be its own Power 5 league all by itself, then we might as well go ahead and do that. You know what was interesting about that game last year, guys? Arkansas State went 0 for 8 on 3rd down conversions. I mean, that's almost impossible to do and still win a football game. I don't know how that happened.
I like this idea as a marketing strategy of let's lump independents in with Power 5s and then throw UMass and Army and stuff into that record and make it look even better.
And think how many teams would just say, well, we're independent now. And
I mean, a lot of teams got UConn on the schedule too. Like, it'll look good if you start throwing the independents in there, like Power 5/independent. There's your marketing strategy.
So, speaking of marketing strategy, this is a terrible segue, because I don't know if there is a big marketing strategy here between Old Dominion 2-2 versus Marshall and that crushing defense playing at 2:30 p.m. ESPN Plus. 14-point favorite for the Thundering Herd. I feel like it could be even more. And it's not because I feel like the Herd has some great offense. Quite frankly, I feel like Cam Fancher is not like doing exactly just like crushing it out there. But that defense against Virginia Tech just looked outstanding. Shane, what are we going to see from this game between Marshall and then Old Dominion, which is probably the oddest team in all of the Sun Belt?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit on it. If you're Marshall, you just want Fancher to manage the game for you, not turn it over, and let your defense win this one. Because, I mean, ODU, yeah, you mentioned the oddest team in the Sun Belt. You know, they look like they should beat Wake Forest one week, and then look like they should lose to a team that's barely out of Division II the next. It's crazy. It's it's hard to say why that happens, but if they can get pressure on the quarterback, if Marshall can get pressure on the quarterback, then I don't think ODU has a ton of chance to win this one on the road.
Thibs, do you agree?
There's not a single thing other than loving to talk baseball with Ricky Ronnie of why Old Dominion should be in this game. And yes, that's as logical as you can get because that's exactly the way it is. But my gut tells me Old Dominion makes a game out of this. Maybe they don't win, but would you say it was 14.5? I think the Monarchs.
Yeah,
I think the Monarchs cover. I think they put a little bit of fear there in the Huff Shuffle, and the Herd get the win to stay atop the East standings. But I like the Monarchs for some reason just to take those 14 points.
Do you think Old Dominion rolls with Billy Wiles again after those 3 picks, or do you think they stick with Jack Shields?
I think they got to go wild with it. I mean, he kind of let them down the stretch. He's the one that kind of contained the game late and really kept them in that game that they should have been dominating the entire time against Commerce. But who knows? We never know what exactly Ricky Ronnie is going to do with the good old Monarchs. Like I said, I like them to cover, though.
The wild card is ODU has shown an ability to score on defense, make some big plays, game-changing plays on defense and special teams. And like we talked about Cam Fancher, like what you want from him is just not to throw interceptions and not make mistakes. And if they if ODU can force that, they might make it more of a game than it looks like it's going to be.
I think a simpler game plan for the Herd is Fancher, take the snap, good, turn around, hand it to Ali, chase him down the field so that we can do it again.
Yeah, and maybe throw him a block if you can, right? Because
sure.
What else you got going? 3 picks against 2 TD passes for Cam Fancher right now. All right, here's a game that I feel like could determine the future for both teams. One trending down, one trending up. 6 p.m. on the NFL Network. How's the NFL Network getting so many Sun Belt games? Coastal Carolina 2-2 at Georgia Southern 3-1. The Eagles are 6.5-point favorite. I just feel like the Eagles are going to destroy Coastal Carolina. I don't know why I feel that way. Just, I guess by the last time I saw them, the sort of uninspired offense that they've been putting out, the uninspired play overall from the Chanticleers. I just don't feel like the Chanticleers are the Chanticleers anymore. If Davis Brin doesn't throw his 5, interceptions against Wisconsin, Georgia Southern might very well be 4-0. Shane, tell me, is this going to be a close game, or is it going to be the blowout I just predicted?
No, I'm with you. I think Georgia Southern can win by at least a couple scores. They're just like I talked about which way the teams were trending when we talked about your Red Wolves. Same thing here. I mean, with the exception of the 5 interceptions at Wisconsin, Georgia Southern's played really, really well so far. They're expecting, maybe the biggest crowd they've had in years down there in Statesboro. So they're going to be fired up. They're going to want to kind of, stick it to Grayson McCall. I think everybody in this league kind of does at this point. I think it's, I think it's Eagles all the way.
Tim, do you agree with that? Is it Eagles all the way?
Eagles all the way. Gotta say this.
Okay.
That the Eagles are 5-4, leading the all-time series, 2-1 in Statesboro. Brent is going to have a career day. Is my biggest prediction there. Might have a pick, but that's about it. Other than that, Grayson McCall will be transferring to Georgia Southern and dunking himself in Great Eagle Creek before he leaves Statesboro.
The loser should have to drink a pint of water from Eagle Creek.
I feel a little bit bad for Tim Beck because I feel like Coastal is a team that everybody in the Sun Belt just really wants to take it to now, and it has nothing to do with Tim Beck, but he's gonna have to deal with that this year.
Yeah, Tim's like, why did I have to come here with a target on my back? That wasn't my intention.
What would be worse though?
Okay.
The way Coastal Carolina is kind of getting treated as the huge target on their back, or if Liberty was once again playing, it seems like every Sun Belt team this year. Who would get the bigger razzle?
Liberty, maybe?
Probably, yeah.
I don't know. Everybody kind of hates Liberty. I don't know why. I mean, I guess I think I know why. I just don't want to say it out loud. It's just like people don't like Liberty. I think people like Coastal. I think people outside of the Sun Belt have favorable views of Coastal, right? They love the teal field. They like the net sponsored by the gun and ammo place. They love the mullets and the motorcycles that drive onto the field before the game starts. I think they love all that. But yeah, we're kind of tired. Hey guys, if I could have 2 O'Doul's Maintain Your Edge games of the week, this would be like the second one. Troy, 2-2 at Georgia State, 4-0. 6 p.m. ESPN Plus. Panthers get the home field advantage, 1.5 spread. This is Darren Granger doing his playmaking all over the place. This is Troy, whose defense put a cork in Austin Reed. Can he put a cork in Granger? We don't know. Thibs, does Troy have, one, does it have the offense to overcome Georgia State's defense, which is pretty good in the red zone? And 2, does Georgia State have enough Darren Granger to overcome that Troy defense?
I think that's what we see. I think this is the game that determines if the Panthers are for real or if what we've seen these first 4 weeks are flukes. Yes, the Panthers are one of 23 4-0 teams in the FBS and one of and one of only 5 in the non-P5, joining the ranks of JMU, Fresno, Air Force, and Liberty. But how Darren Granger plays is how the Panthers go. If Granger does Granger things, Panthers win it hands down. If he has a little bit of a struggle, Summerall takes full advantage. Kamani Vidal, Solomon, Gunnar Watson, the whole Trojan cast have their career days, and we say, well, that was a good run for the Panthers, but now it's back to cheering for the Trojans.
Troy might come down to Gunnar Watson. The one thing that you can do on the Panthers is you can pass on the Panthers. Pass defense, not spectacular. Shane, what do you think? Is Georgia State for real? And would beating Troy prove that they were for real?
I think it would prove they're for real. I mean, kind of what I'm pretty curious about is Georgia State comes home 4-0. They're not known for getting great crowds there. Yeah. Troy is not a very far drive for the Troy fans.
Well, I think I know where this is going.
What's the crowd going to be like? It should be Troy fan, or it should be Georgia State fans just absolutely packing that place to welcome home their 4-0 team that's never been 4-0 before. I'm not sure they're going to have the kind of home field advantage that they should have in this one, but I kind of hope they do. I kind of like seeing Georgia State competitive and in the mix for this one. I think they're for real. I don't know if they pull this one out, but I think they're going to be in the mix in the Sun Belt.
Kind of rooting for Georgia State because they've had so many years of just not quite getting it together. Isn't it unfortunate for Troy, though, that the 2 conference games they've played so far, both 4-0? That's pretty unfortunate scheduling for them.
I think Shane is all about the Panthers for the wrong reason, though. He just wants to hear the train horn.
Choo-choo. All boys like to hear the choo-choo. Yeah, I love it, too. People hate the choo-choo. I love it. I think it's great. It's up to your team to stop the choo-choo train. All right. To me, there is levels of intrigue in this game that maybe doesn't seep to the surface immediately. Texas State, 3-1. At Southern Miss, 1-3. 6 p.m. on ESPN+. The Bobcats are given a 7-point edge, and I think that's fair. But I tell you what, Frank Gore looked really good against Arkansas State. He's having some foot problems. He has some ankle problems. You could see that late. But, man, when he hits you, like that initial contact, get ready for some yak. Yards after yards after contact, because he is going to collect his yak. That guy, speaking of trains, he is a train himself. I would not be surprised if Southern Miss makes this a really good game, possibly even wins the game. What do you think, Thibs? You know these Boobcats better than anybody. Do they have is there a chance that Southern Miss upends them?
It'll be interesting to see more so of how do they handle playing on the road. They played at Baylor, I know, to open the season. It's a road game. It's right up the road, though. It's not a true road test for them. I think San Antonio was maybe a little bit more of a road test, and they held their own. Obviously didn't get the win there. But this will be their first real leaving home test. And the intriguing part of it to me, the pass defense for the Eagles is 3rd in the Sun Belt, 23rd overall in the FBS. The passing game for the Viva La Boobcats, 4th in the Sun Belt, 40th overall. Which one of those breaks is who wins this game? I like TJ Finley. I like this offense under GJ Kinney to go to 4-1 on the season.
Now, do you concur with that analysis, Shane Mettlen, of the Daily News record?
I think so. I think Texas State is the better team right now. I'm very curious, though, to see the response from Southern Miss. Like, just the emotional response to come home. Their fan base turned on them a little bit this week. I mean, to be honest with you, I was like surprised how quickly Southern Miss fans seemed to be done with Will Hall after he kind of overperformed last year.
Yeah, I thought he was like he could do no wrong.
Yeah, I mean it. I'm curious to see if the players kind of rally around him, rally around what's happening, and want to prove themselves at home, or if it goes the opposite direction for Southern Miss at this point. But I think Texas State is the better team, but I could see a motivated Southern Miss team doing some damage in this one.
Yeah, it got a little ugly for Will Hall and Hattiesburg this week. People like openly daydreaming about Ed Orgeron somehow becoming the coach of Southern Miss, which I thought was kind of funny. Because I love it when there's a serious discussion like that. Like, oh, well, what would we have to do to get into Hattiesburg? There's nothing. You got Will Hall. He's your guy. Just roll with Will Hall. You'll be okay.
Oh, Ed Orgeron in Hattiesburg, that'll never happen. No one can understand him. They couldn't understand him when he was at Nichols or when he was at LSU. What makes you think going to Hattiesburg is going to be any better?
He's like if some magician gave sentience to a boulder, just he was suddenly able to talk. Last game. This is a good one. This is deceptively good too. Partly because we haven't seen the Warhawks in a little while. They've taken their bye week, and before that, they were at Texas A&M, where they, received a moment of truth, but also receiving a lot of truth has been Appalachian State, 2-2. They get to go to the Bayou to ULM, 7 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Mountaineers a 13.5-point favorite. I think a lot of that is it's ULM and it's Appalachian State, but man, Appalachian State. There's something going on in Boone right now that just isn't sitting well. How does a team with Nate Noel, who seems to be running over everyone, how are they not scoring more touchdowns? It's kind of strange to me. ULM has that tough defensive line. They may be able to bottle up Nate Noel. Thibs, what do you think about this game?
I think it comes down to, obviously, we didn't really see the run stop against Texas A&M. Go figure, P5 v G5. But when the Warhawks defense is playing kind of on that G5 level, like we're seeing this upcoming weekend, that defense is legit, and especially against the run. So once again, I think it's all about quarterback play and how does Joey Aguilar play for the Mountaineers to determine how wide of a margin of victory is. The Warhawks still haven't really shown me much on the offensive side of the ball of what they can do to move the ball. And until that offense clicks, it's hard for the defense to constantly be on the field after constant 3 and outs and still pick the Warhawks. So I like the Mountaineers, but ULM could make it a little interesting. Everyone hates going to Monroe for some reason, and so there's always that advantage. Maybe that's worth 16 points or so.
Okay, all right. I understand where you're coming from too. When it comes to like, you could have a good defense, and it doesn't look good because by the time it hits the third quarter and they've been on the field far longer than anybody else, and they're gasping for air, and they start giving up touchdowns, you begin to assume that the defense isn't very good, and it's just because they're just not getting any help from their offense. That is a very frustrating place to be in. Shane, what do you think? You're as a citizen of the Sun Belt East, you've seen this Appalachian State team under a sort of more powerful microscope. What do you think is going on with Appalachian State, and are they going to beat ULM as handedly as Vegas thinks they are?
I don't think as handily as Vegas thinks they are. I mean, I think it's going to be a competitive game. Like you said, ULM stops the run. I think you do that against App, you give yourself a chance. It's another game, just like the Southern Miss game, where I'm curious to see how a team responds at this point. You lose in kind of like the craziest, most devastating way possible last week. Another fan base that's kind of down on their coach right now. Like, how does that team respond? Last year, I don't think App State responded too well to the criticism. Like, when the things you saw coming out of social media and everything else from their players, I don't think they responded too well. Depending on how things are going in the locker room right now, I think ULM definitely keeps this one pretty close.
I think you know what though, Shane, we both kind of agree on that with Thibs being a little more cautious. But we thought that maybe ULM would show a lot more against A&M, and they did not. So I don't know. Maybe we're tainted on ULM analysis, and maybe it's Thibs that knows it more than anyone. So I guess we'll see. I hope for Thibs' sake we're right, because I think the league is more fun when ULM is playing at a higher level. So, and it's also kind of fun. I'm not going to say, actually, I am going to say it. It's more fun when Appalachian State fans are in a tizzy. It's like, it's so crazy. It's not that you would know, Shane, because you've never actually been on the receiving end of Appalachian State craziness.
Not really. Not in football so much.
And that's it. We've done it, guys. It's another successful edition of Second and Short.
One more thing before we get into our plugs, promos, parting shots. The most recent edition of the Fun Belt 5 out.
Okay.
Georgia Southern takes home the 5th spot. Marshall at 4. Troy 3. Georgia State number 2. And the reigning champs sitting atop for everything but the preseason poll. The JMU Dukes. They have illegal sideline antics, but they're still sitting at 4-0.
Yeah, you think they learned their lesson? By the way, I remember in our last podcast, you had said, well, what if the footage from that drone was really cool? And I was like, who knows? Maybe it sucked. It was cool. Yeah, I think you kind of forwarded around, and it got passed around. It looked really good. How do you reprimand a team for producing such cool footage?
I just would have liked the drone to maybe clip the band as they were going by or something.
Maybe land inside a tuba, and then like the tuba player sucks it in and starts choking. That'd be funny.
I don't know how to follow that.
In other news,
yes,
we have plugs, promos, and parting shots. And Shane, since you're so eager to go, please lead us in.
Well, since we have some time before the next X League game in Japan, not going to talk too much about that.
Okay.
They don't play every 7 days. They give themselves some rest.
They probably need it. They deserve it.
So just a simple plug to read dnronline.com/sports and read all about JMU and the rest of the Sun Belt, and check us out there.
As for me, I too have a simple plug. If you liked Second and Short, you can find a lot of that analysis at howraiser.com under this week's Sun Belt Heat, Week 5, where we make all the predictions, the analysis, the game times, the odds, everything you could possibly want to know about the Sun Belt slate. You'll find it on howraiser.com. Take a good look. I could use the clicks.
For my plug, be sure to go to funbeltpodcast.com, taking you to our Believe Network site. You can shop merchandise there, where we have a great Fun Belt Podcast t-shirt. I got one. One in gray. Takes about a week and a half. Fantastic quality. I'm anxious to break it out next time I am at a Fun Belt game.
I too have a shirt from the store. And I'm telling you, it takes off about 15 pounds.
I need to order mine.
Everybody was telling me how slender I look. Couldn't believe it.
I didn't say we were selling girdles. We're selling t-shirts, Jeremy.
Your sex appeal will increase by 300% just by wearing these shirts.
But check it out, funbeltpodcast.com. Hit the shop button. We have something there. We have a Boobcat t-shirt.
Yeah,
we have the Fainting Goat play. We have our logo out there, as well as something for Georgia Southern fans. Put Irk in the hall.
Put Irk in the hall. Cowards.
That'll be, I don't know. I don't remember. I'll send it in the Twitters.
All right.
I mean, we rely on you for everything. So I don't know why you're talking about here.
Good fucking luck. Make sure you edit all that out.
Good fucking luck. And that's how it's going to start.
No, that's the close.
That's right. No one goes to the end anyway, so they get rewarded with that.
This is a mini meditation guided by Bombas. Repeat after me. I'm comfy. I'm cozy. I have 0 blisters on my toes. And that's because I wear Bombas, the softest socks, underwear, and t-shirts that give back. 1 purchased equals 1 donated. Now go to bombas.com/listen and use code LISTEN for 20% off your first purchase. That's bombas.com/listen and use code LISTEN at checkout.
If you're a facilities manager at a university, you know students rely on the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the occasional late-night snack. So when a dishwasher breaks down and dirty plates pile up, the mess hall can turn messy in the blink of an eye. Enter Grainger. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast delivery, the product you need now is never far away. So you can turn that dishwasher back into a lean, clean washing machine. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.